Good evening, everybody. I am Shelly B, a conservative Black sister surviving in a hot mess world. And tonight's hot mess is the Senate hearing on COVID vaccine safety. And did the government cover up the safety signals from day one? But before we get into this, please like, share, subscribe to this channel, comment, do whatever you got to do to push this channel forward and get me more subscribers. I'm chugging along and I'm trying to bring everybody this information to help us elevate our frequencies. Now, the reason why I chose this to speak to tonight, because I watched the whole hearing. It's about 3 hours long. And, upon looking on YouTube about this issue, I realized that a lot of people are not even talking about this. It's like nobody wants to talk about these shots for some reason. I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance or what it is. I have no idea. But since they've been administering them, it's hard to have a discussion with certain people about this. And I'm glad that this administration is finally going to do something about it. And for people that question and don't understand why a lot of Black people turned away from the Democratic Party, a lot of it was because of these damn shots. Because Black people took it the least. The only people that took these shots less than Black people were PhDs. Why? Because they knew the threat that they caused. Black people didn't take it because we just don't trust the government, and we damn sure don't trust the medical industry with the history that we've had with them. And, we suffered the most in not taking them because, with the mandates, a lot of people lost their jobs and so forth. So as a community, we suffered the most from these vaccines and these mandates. So I wanted to put this out here so we can start having discussion about this, not to mention that you're going to see with these doctors here. A lot of these doctors I have heard of for many, many years because they were the only ones that were brave enough to kind of stand up in this fight and try to, get help for patients and stuff. A lot of doctors had to go into special online practices and stuff to treat patients because they couldn't work with the hospitals because they were banned. It was just a mess. And I would definitely suggest for you guys to, watch this in its entirety because it's a lot of good information in here. A lot of the reason why I was a person that warned about these shots from the beginning was because I, like millions of other people that decided to go down a rabbit hole and do the research, I found out very early on that there were questions on safety as far as whistleblowers and things like that. So, and I alerted like a lot of my friends, family, my union representatives, as many people as I could warn. But of course, really nobody listened to me. But, and I don't want to say like, oh, I told you so and this and that. But I am going to say that because it's what happened. I'm sorry. It just is what happened. So now they have this special subcommittee hearing now that you got all the Democrats out of office that were responsible for this happening the way that it did, really. Now they're having a hearing because they want to get to the bottom of, why didn't they warn people about the dangers of these shots? And it's just so much that comes with this. And this is the first hearing of its kind, and there's going to be more hearings too. But let's start watching this because I have a lot of things I want to show y'all. And this hearing is like 3 hours long. So I'm going to have to do this in 2 parts. So I'm going to get through this as much as I can. And then I'll come back tomorrow and we'll talk about the rest because this is something that everybody needs to listen to. And I've just been warning about this the whole time because I really want people to mind their health. Okay. These doctors on here, you need to contact them if you're having issues because, their protocols. And now it's been 5 years damn near. So they've done all the research. They have all the peer reviewed studies. They have everything out to know what can help now, and, if you're having any issues, you should talk to these doctors that are on this panel here. But let's just start watching this. Now, I just have to let you know that I don't even have to tell you who the people are that there are the Democratic senators or who are the people that are for the pharmaceutical companies. You can just tell without me even pointing them out to you who they are. So let's just watch this. Let me share my screen. That would help a lot, wouldn't it? Okay. This is pretty late for me. And I took a nap today and then it just messed me up for the whole day, but I had a good time. I played chess with my son. He really likes chess. I pretty much lose every time. And we had dinner, and here I am. All right, so check this out. Now, this is a trip. And like I said, I think you all should watch this in its entirety. Oh, wrong side. Sorry, y'all.
This hearing of the Permanent Subcommittee Investigations will come to order. I want to welcome everybody here. I appreciate your attendance in the audience. I certainly appreciate the time and effort that witnesses put into their testimony and their time coming here, traveling. And
now, before we get well into this, I have to say that a lot of the reason, I mean, I've been stopped voting Democrat for a decade now, but a lot of the reason too that a lot of people, like I said, wanted to vote Republican is because they were the only people that were listening about these shots. And not even all of them were listening because everybody had drank the Kool-Aid, but there was a few people that really did listen. Marjorie Taylor Greene being one of them, she was one of the only ones I saw that when people contacted her and saying that there's something wrong with these shots, she tried to, help these people. But a lot of the injured people went unheard and untreated. It's a disgrace what they did to these people. So this is what this hearing is all about. I feel like there should be Nuremberg trials and everything. People should be hanged and everything for what they did regarding this.
Spending the afternoon with us. I would like to welcome Ranking Member Blumenthal, all the members, new and old. Senator Kim, thanks for showing up. To this, the first hearing of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations in the 119th Congress.
And
I look forward to working with all of you as we conduct oversight investigations to uncover and expose the truth on issues that are important.
I like the fact that he said it's a permanent subcommittee, which means that they're going to keep looking at this. And I hope that people are, convicted, because what they did here is terrible. And it's so the Democrat part the Democrats have always been a hot mess, but the Biden administration was just a disgrace. Everything they had going on over there.
People. My hope is our work will be largely nonpartisan. And I use that word specifically, nonpartisan. There should be nothing partisan about revealing the truth. That was this subcommittee's experience in the last Congress under Chairman Blumenthal, as we conducted bipartisan investigations into the assassination attempts on President Trump and the Coast Guard's cover-up of sexual abuse, and attempted to obtain information the government has withheld from the 9/11 families. In addition to the subcommittee's bipartisan record, its reputation for conducting thorough investigations spans decades. Since the 1940s, this subcommittee has been the epicenter of major congressional oversight efforts.
I just want you guys to watch this opening part of this because it just lets you know who these people are, what they're doing, and what they're, looking for. And then I'll skip around a little bit.
I hope to use the subcommittee to build on that legacy by bringing much needed transparency to the public, revealing the truth and exposing wrongdoing. But it won't be easy. Wrongdoers are very good at covering their tracks, and we are already aware of allegations suggesting document destruction and purposeful evasion of FOIA. Quick little side, I do want to tell members that, and members of the audience, this is not going to be a standard U.S. Senate hearing. I think it'll start out that way, but I was here early enough on the subcommittee with Senator Levin, for example, and Senator Levin would come with binders like we have of over 2,000 documents, but that was just his binder for the hearing, and they'd go all day long. This is about thorough investigation to uncover the truth. So again, I'm going to encourage the members.
I feel like they're going to find out everything they need to know because Democrats are so messy. The reason why they're so messy is because they've gotten away with murder for so long, and they just have so many people on their side for them to do all this wicked shit that they just are messy and sloppy. I just feel like what they've done here was a disgrace. And I feel like y'all talk about reparations. I feel like they owe everybody on earth reparations for what they've done.
We'll have timing on the first round of questions, but if it's apparent that you're interested in this, if it's apparent that you've listened to the testimony, read the testimony, and you have more probing questions, I'll allow time to do it. Now, it'll be at my discretion, but I'll be, I think, very generous to serious types of questions. Now, the title of today's hearing is The Corruption of Science in Federal Health Agencies, How Health Officials Downplayed and Hid Myocarditis and Other Adverse Events Associated with the COVID-19.
Yes, they did, because I have to tell y'all, I'm telling you, okay? at the beginning of COVID, when the first few people took these shots, people died. They had horrible injuries, tremors, paralysis, all kinds of things. A little girl was paralyzed in the trials. So many things happened, and they just did not, they just covered it up. I don't care what they're trying to say. They're going to try to gaslight a lot in this, but it's just so obvious that they're gaslighting, and they don't have any evidence of what they're saying and stuff like that. I mean, it's a disgrace what they've done, and it didn't have to go this way. If they just would have been honest. I don't know what was the reason why they really wanted to get this medical product into people so bad. I hope they find that out.
19 vaccines. I also want to take a moment to apologize, particularly to the vaccine injured, because I know there was an awful lot of expectation that as soon as I obtained this chairmanship, that we'd be.
I'm telling you, how they did the vaccine injured was a disgrace. I remember when there would be like pages, like groups on Facebook and stuff like that, and they would ban them. If somebody posted like their injuries and they might have videos of their tremors, whatever, they would block them, black out their pictures and stuff like that. It was a disgrace. So the people that had these injuries, they got no help. They were told they were crazy. You know, none of the hospitals or doctors wanted to help them, and they just went untreated and they suffered, and some of them died or whatever. It's horrific what they went through. And I was just a person that was following it from the beginning. So I got to see a lot of those people that were injured before they started censoring and banning everything. And it was really sad. When I knew that it was really a problem is when Lisa Rinna's daughter was on some TikTok or Instagram or something, begging people to please tell her how she could help herself, because she felt that after she took the vaccine, all her autoimmune diseases that she had that were in check started to, resurface. So she was sick with all these things at the same time. And a lot of people, did complain about that. And the vaccines are, allegedly supposed to cause all these different autoimmune diseases too. So it's just a lot of things here to unpack.
Holding hearings immediately in January and February. And that was what my hope was. It didn't pan out that way, because as dedicated as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is to radical transparency in HHS, that's hard to achieve. And so it still has been difficult to get the documents. I think we finally got enough documents to certainly demonstrate in this case with myocarditis.
And how they get the documents was that all of these doctors and scientists and stuff that they censored that have been trying to say from day one, don't take this, there's something wrong with this, and this is going to happen. That's not all these different specialists, gynecologists, heart specialists, all these, they all said it from the beginning. And so they did the research. Countries all over the world did the research on these shots. I remember early in the beginning, they were, stealing shots and seeing what was in it. And they found lots of crazy things inside the actual vaccines, shots and stuff. I mean, it's just, now it's been 5 years. There's so many studies and so much data out there, to the point where it's indisputable. You can't even dispute it anymore that there's something wrong with these shots and that people have been affected and there's something wrong with these, and it just took way too long to me.
That the federal government was well aware of it, yes, downplayed the severity, and hid what they had actually found. So again, that's what this hearing is about. That's what about the report that we're issuing in conjunction with this hearing is about.
Hi, Hotspot. Yes. What about the people forced to take it to keep your job? Yes, a lot. And I begged my union president to please do not make them force these shots on our members, because there's something that's not right. I sent them studies, data, all kinds of hearings and stuff that they had about it in other countries. I just sent them so many things, and they just ignored it, called me a conspiracy theorist, slandered me in meetings, everything, when all I was just trying to do is help people to not have this forced on them. Hotspot says, come here, we will make you sick for free. Yeah, I mean, it's terrible what they did to people. They violated so many rights. I mean, I could just go on all day about this, but let's just watch this.
As chairman of the full committee, I held multiple hearings in the first year of the pandemic that opened my eyes to the capture and corruption of federal health agencies and scientific research. So much of our miserably failed response to COVID made no sense. No. Masking, devastating shutdowns, the sabotage of early treatment, rapid approval of remdesivir.
Hi, Hotspot. Yeah, I was one of those people that had my channel taken away. I mean, my page taken away on Instagram for posting. And the funny thing, they sent me threatening letter first, and then they took my page down, and then somehow it miraculously got put back up. I don't know who did it. I thanked them. And then I started posting things immediately, and they took me down for good. Thank you so much. I'm trying, I just want to try to, help people, because a lot of these doctors do have help for people that are suffering. And I just want to get a message out there to people. I know people that took these shots to say their health is not right. Even the people that did not take it, a lot of people know people that are suffering and stuff. And these doctors have the answers why, and they have help.
And the maniacal reliance on the COVID-19 injections.
Yeah, I know YouTube censors a lot, but I don't care. So far, I've gotten through so far, you know what I mean? But, it is what it is. Hopefully, I share my videos through other places and stuff like that. And hopefully they get the message out. So we'll see.
I use that word purposefully as well. Injections, they're not standard vaccines, as the only way to end the pandemic. As ranking member of this subcommittee, I was unable to interest the subcommittee or full committee chairs in joining my oversight of our pandemic response. So instead of formal hearings, I held public events, giving those injured by the COVID-19 injection a platform to appeal to federal health officials and the public for help. I also provided opportunities for eminently qualified doctors and medical researchers who disagreed with our pandemic response to offer second opinions. More often than not, those who spoke up were vilified, censored, and suffered various forms of retribution and retaliation. Fortunately, the retaliation did not deter them, and they continued to speak out. Even better, they were joined by others. Some of those individuals are testifying today or are in the audience. I want to personally thank them for their courage and persistence. Today, I'm releasing an interim report that is based in large part on documents that were obtained by individuals who filed Freedom of Information FOIA requests over the last several years. These documents, obtained by reporters and private citizens, contain heavy redactions applied by the Biden administration. Yet, despite these obstructive efforts, these individuals initially raised awareness of the Biden's administration's failure to immediately warn the public about myocarditis and other serious adverse events linked.
The Biden administration is guilty of so many things. And the fact that now they're trying to say that he was not running the government, well, we all knew that. And so a lot of these decisions that were being made, who made all these decisions? Like, I feel like they have so much work to do. And I feel like it's despicable that they took so long, but they had to wait till these people got in control because they were just being blocked so much.
To the COVID-19 injections. I want to today credit the tenacious reporting of Brenda Bellotti, Ed Berkovich, Brian Hooker, Amy Kelly, Zachary Stieber.
And listen, shout out to all the independent journalists, because the independent journalists are the ones that break these stories. Mainstream media, they lie to you constantly. I don't give a damn if it's Fox News, CNN, any of them. The independent journalists, those are the ones that I trust. Those are the ones that risk everything to bring the truth to you.
Naomi Wolf. I know this hearing in particular was based on what we saw in the Pfizer papers and the 17-page talking points memo we'll talk about later. And again, that was the good work of Naomi Wolf and Amy Kelly and their crowdsourcing of the Pfizer papers. How do you go through millions of pages? But I also want to thank the individuals associated through Act 19, the Informed Consent Action Network, ICANN, the book, The Pfizer Papers, as well as the report.
ICANN, and I watched a lot of their shows too, and a lot of their information. But they sue pharmaceutical companies and, they expose what's in their products and stuff like that. And one of those lawyers are going to speak. They win almost every time. I think they win all the time.
Reporters at Epoch Times, The Defender, Just the News, The Daily Clout, and many others who work persistently to expose the truth. Now, I actually have quite a bit longer opening statement, which I'll ask to be entered in the record. But what I want to do right now is, in a more succinct fashion, go through a abbreviated timeline as it relates to the myocarditis issue. After facing 4 years of the Biden administration's efforts.
The reason why this is an issue is because they knew immediately that it caused heart problems. They tried to downplay it and make it seem like it wasn't nothing. They didn't give the proper warnings and stuff like that to the public. And a lot of people were injured. A lot of young athletes died from it and stuff like that. It was a disgrace what they did. And a lot of people are suffering. You know, this vaccine has more side effects than any vaccine that has ever been created. And more people have died from this vaccine than all the vaccines together since the beginning of vaccines. That's the data that we have now. Kimber says it doesn't help that Pfizer owns all our news. Exactly. Hey, how about that? And it's really true. And they want to stop all of that now. And I feel like if they could take the immunity away from pharma, nobody would get vaccines because they would be sued all the time and they wouldn't even exist anymore. So that's something that they're working on too. I just pray to God that people wake up and keep these people in office long enough for them to get done what they have to get done. Because if you get Democrats back in office, everything's going to go right back to the way it was.
To undermine the public's access to information, my oversight work, I immediately issued a subpoena to HHS when I became chairman of this committee. The subpoena records I am releasing today, which are discussed in the interim report, do not contain FOIA redactions and will finally provide the public a more complete understanding of the Biden administration's awareness of the risks of myocarditis following COVID-19 injection. So now here's a brief timeline.
Now, a lot of people, this beginning part, I don't think it's boring because I feel like they give a lot of information, but a lot of people don't watch these hearings. They don't watch C-SPAN. They don't watch what these government officials are doing and talking about all day, but it is important. Okay. The devil is in the damn details. You got to sit through these things and watch it. I sat there and watched the whole 3 hours of it. And to me, the whole 3 hours is riveting. You have to watch the whole entire thing. Kimber says they get back in and we are all in trouble. They are Marxists and technocrats. Yeah. And demons and Satanists.
On February 28, 2021, Israeli health officials notified CDC, quote, of large reports of myocarditis, particularly in young people following the administration of the Pfizer vaccine. Again, that's February 28, 2021, 2.5 months after the emergency use authorization. On April 12th, over a month later, a DOD consultant raises concerns to CDC and FDA officials about their ability to monitor and track cardiac-related adverse events. The consultant notes, quote, if you do not ask, you will not see it. But does that mean it does not exist, unquote. Around the same time, in mid-April 2021, CDC officials discussed safety signals for myocarditis, quote, for myocarditis with mRNA vaccines. Based on DOD.
Now, the thing that's important to know here that the safety signals that the CDC and the FDA, they had something called VAERS, and it was like a vaccine early reporting something or whatever. And like people were reporting to it, but it was just all corrupt how it worked. And, you know, they weren't really recording the data properly and stuff like that. But they knew from the beginning that something was not right. And people were complaining from day one of injuries. And they did nothing. And in fact, like they're saying, they're here to find out, you know, if they covered it up. But we all know they did. They just have to have the proof. I hope that they do big trials like Nuremberg and these people get hanged, go to Guantanamo Bay. I don't know what they're going to do with these people, but they need to pay. This was a crime against humanity, what these people have done. And I don't see why more people are not upset. I didn't even take it, and I'm upset for all the people that went through this. It's just crazy. You know, everybody was lied to. And, you know, people need to know the truth to protect their health and their children's health and the people that they care about, and know the truth about what is going on and what is in these products.
And Israeli data, but do not take immediate steps to warn the public.
Look at these numbers.
By the end of April 2021, just 4 months into the COVID injection, VAERS was already reporting 2,926 deaths worldwide. Within
any other vaccine in trials, 1 or 2 people die, they take it off the market. Why were they keeping this going? This is the thing that people have to really question. This is why it does make me feel like it was some type of depopulation agenda, because why would you keep this going if you know people are dying and people are, you know, this many thousands of people? It should have been taken off the market. I don't understand this. Kimba says agree, but nothing ever happens to them. They own the judicial system too. They are above the law. Exactly. They are above the law, but they might not be above the law anymore with these people in office. I'm hoping.
30 days of injection, with 46% of those deaths occurring on day 0, 1, or 2 following injection. Now, I have
That's terrible.
the first chart I ever did on this,
terrible.
which I presented in our event in Milwaukee with the COVID.
Do you understand? Do you see the
injection
small print at the bottom where it says right here, deaths on 0, 1, or 2 days? Okay, so a couple of days after somebody got these shots, they end up dead. My nanny, she got a Moderna shot and she had a heart attack and almost died in my house. Thank God I got off work that early that day and something told me to come home. The lady was already suffering, but she really tried to make it home to get my son from school or whatever. But that lady almost died in my house hours after getting a Moderna shot. Thank God I was there, because I don't know what would have happened if it was just her and my son, because my son was young at the time, young back then.
That chart a couple months later is showing, I think, 30-some%. I can't see it from that far away, but let me get up.
Let me make this bigger so you guys can see this.
That chart is showing at that time, a couple months later, 4,812 deaths, 1,736, or 36% of those deaths occurring within the day of injection or within 1 or 2 days. Now, I was raising that issue. I was going on media. I was showing this chart, and I got censored. Radio talk show hosts, when I talked about this, they were deplatformed.
And what is a hot ass mess, right, about this is that this is the FDA and the CDC's own data, and people were getting blocked and censored and getting deplatformed for showing people these numbers. And these were the government's own numbers. So make it make sense.
Causation. I realize it's grossly underreported, but that's a correlation that I thought
it's probably way more.
It's pretty important. Somebody ought to be looking at it. So
if those are the government's numbers, you know that they're probably quadruple.
I finally had a meeting with Francis Collins, head of NIH, with a group of other senators. I asked him, "Are you watching VAERS?" I gave him those stats. He did admit that 6 deaths were associated with the J&J vaccine, but for the other over a few thousand deaths, he said, "Senator, people die." That was his callous reaction. That was the head of the NIH, completely blowing off the VAERS system that they had touted before.
And people always say to me, Shelley, people die with every vaccine. First of all, this is not a vaccine. That's number one. And two, more people have died off of this experimental product than all of vaccines combined, okay? And why is it still on the market?
Before they got the emergency use authorization. I'll continue. From May 17th to May 21, 2021, CDC officials discussed whether to issue a formal health warning called a Health Alert Network message on myocarditis, noting that, quote, providers aren't reporting these cases to VAERS. They knew they weren't. They knew they existed. They knew they weren't reporting them. A couple days later, during a May 24, 2021 vaccine safety meeting, notes show that FDA and CDC officials asked, quote, is VAERS signaling for myopericarditis now? Question mark, and are told for the age group 16 to 17 years.
VAERS was signal for many things, but I guess myocarditis was maybe one of the more serious ones. But I mean, people had all kinds of Bell's palsy, tremors, you know, paralysis. It was a mess.
In 18 to 24 years, yes, they saw a safety signal in VAERS. Yet, from May 25th to May 27th, CDC officials provide up-to-date information on the status of the Han to Pfizer and Moderna representatives. Not to the public. They're warning the injection manufacturers, indicating CDC's preference to keep those companies more informed about vaccine adverse events than the American people. On May 26th, then FDA Director, Acting Commissioner Janet Woodcock emails then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky, noting that, quote, FDA does not concur with the issuance of the myocarditis Han as written. The same day, CDC and FDA decide to, quote, nix the Han and instead publish less formal clinical, quote, clinical considerations about myocarditis on CDC website. 3 days following the myopericarditis signal, FDA official Peter Marks appears to raise concerns about even posting the less formal clinical considerations on CDC's website. He emails Woodcock and Walensky, quote, "I need to ask for your patience with me. We still have concerns here if myocarditis and pericarditis have not actually signaled." That same day, CDC officials editing the clinical considerations discussed the need to, quote, "walk back," a sentence advising doctors to, quote, "consider restricting patients with myocarditis from rigorous activity like competitive sports for at least 3 months until."
Now, this is why all those young athletes were passing out and falling out dead on the fields, because they should not have been working out with that vaccine, you understand, or that medical product. And they knew this from the beginning. They could have warned people, and this would not have happened to these young athletes. A lot of athletes say their careers are over and they blame it on these shots.
Cleared by healthcare professionals. And I'll be talking to Dr. McCulloch about the danger of eliminating that warning, because 4 days later, CDC posts on its website clinical considerations about myocarditis, which omits any advice to doctors to advise patients with myocarditis to limit rigorous activity. That's what's in this report in far greater detail. So I would ask that that information, together with my majority staff report, 2,473 pages of records HHS has produced pursuant to my January 28, 25 subpoena, and my actual subpoena. I want those entered into the record. And with that, I'll turn over to Ranking Member Blumenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having this
guy right
first
here,
hearing of.
Watch how now, just throughout these whole hearings, there's two guys here. This guy and there's another guy that's a doctor that's on the panel. And you could just tell which two are for pharma. Just pay attention to how much they're going to gaslight and how much they're going to take you to the past and try to put you back in that fear moment from 5 years ago, instead of focusing on why we are here today in 2025 to find out the safety. You know, why did the government lie about the safety of these shots? Okay. And why are they not listening to these doctors and scientists with years of data that the patients are suffering from these mRNA vaccines and these spike proteins that are in these products? Okay. So just pay attention to these people, because I'm going to skip over this. But if you end up watching on your own, the link is in the description. Just watch how they gaslight, because I'm going to have to skip over some of this gaslighting.
Our permanent subcommittee on investigations. I think we all agree that this hearing and our efforts in this subcommittee ought to be nonpartisan and non-political, and that we should depoliticize science.
You're welcome, Kimber. Thanks for watching.
Strictly adhere to the evidence, medical evidence, without resort to ideological predilection.
Now look at this propaganda sign that he's going to put up behind him.
And that there ought to be warnings about side effects from any medicine. And
there ought to be warnings, but you wouldn't allow any.
The warning should be as prompt as possible. I think we can all agree.
Look at these damn signs. Look
at
these signs. Let me make this bigger for y'all so you can see it. Look at the sign. COVID vaccines have saved more than 3 million lives. They have no data at all of if these saved anybody or not. COVID has killed more than 1.2 million Americans. It did kill a lot of people, but was it COVID or was it the treatments that the hospitals were giving? It's turning out to be, which they're going to talk about this too, that it was mostly how the hospital treated the people with COVID is what killed them.
And that there ought to be very rigorous review of any kind of medical treatment by the FDA to make sure it's safe and effective before it's used.
But they don't do that because they don't care, because pharma is kicking back. Look at all the people on Congress that are millionaires. A lot of them are for pharma, and they get money from pharma. All of these people sitting up here defending this foolishness are probably somehow attached to pharmaceutical companies and getting money in some way to sit up there and try to get you to believe that this is righteous in some way.
In the public. But I want to take us back to January of 2020. 21.
I'm like, why are we going
I
back
know it's
here?
hard to recall the sense of real fear during the worst of the pandemic. More than
See, this is the gaslighting. They're going to try to take you back, and he's going to talk about, you know, they didn't know and this and that. And like, you know, they're going to try to garner your empathy and try to make every excuse why they didn't do this and why they didn't do that. You can watch this on your own time. Let's just skip over him a little bit and talk to hear somebody with some sense. Let's see what he's going to say again.
But our intention is to do so. You did mention the irrefutable fact that these injections save lives. I would enter into the record a recent study by Raphael Lataster, who does a pretty effective job of rebutting one of those studies from Watson et al. But
there are so many studies out here now that say that they do not save lives. They are hurting and harming people, and millions of people have been suffering. Lots of people have died from it and everything, and they need to be off of the market, and they need to stop telling people to give it to their babies and stuff like that. RFK made it where people over 65, but I guess they figure, well, we don't care about them. They're about to die anyway. They need to take it off the market for everybody. I don't know why they would make it where old people have to get it. They just need to take it off the market for everybody and not recommend it for anyone, period.
Put in the record, and again, will allow the public, the American people who are watching this hearing, decide based on what testimony is, based on what's been entered in the record, based on our report. It is the custom of this, the full committee and the subcommittee, to swear in witnesses. So if you all rise and raise your right hand.
Now, y'all got to get ready for these doctors when they speak, because it's unbelievable.
Do you swear that
you have to watch this in its entirety
and hear what these people have to say? The whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
The second to the last guy is the lawyer. The rest of them are all doctors.
Our first witness is Dr. Peter McCulloch. Dr. McCulloch is an internist, cardiologist, and epidemiologist from Dallas, Texas. He is broadly published with over 700 citations in the National Library of Medicine. He has testified multiple times in the U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives, European.
This doctor right here that's about to speak was the most renowned cardiologist in the world before COVID. Everybody relied on this man's expertise all over the world. But then when he said what he said about the vaccines and how they were damaging the heart so bad, then all of a sudden he was censored. He's a quack. He's crazy, this, that. And I'm like, now see, this is not going to work for him, because clearly he was the most renowned person in the world. And he's telling us there's a problem. And now you don't want us to believe him. Why? And that's what made me really look at these people. This particular doctor also has an online medical care thing, because he quit some of his positions and stuff like that and went into private practice. So he'll explain, but like he has an online place where they help treat people that are vaccine injured. He has some protocols that are well researched and respected that work to help remove spike proteins out the body and stuff like that. So you have to look at it. So I think it's called the Wellness Company or something like that.
In Parliament and many state capitals concerning public health policy. Dr. McCulloch.
Chairman.
They took this man through it. I commend, it almost makes me want to cry what these men have been through. I commend these people that's sitting up here, because they risk everything, their careers, their lives, everything. Some reporters and doctors are dead right now because they were killed or whatever, sent to be censored and stuff. These people right here, I commend them that they stuck in this relentlessly trying to warn the public. God bless these people here.
Johnson, ranking member, Blumenthal, subcommittee members, it's an honor to present my insights, my analysis, my clinical experience on this very important topic. The first time I testified at Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, before a word came out of my mouth, Minority Senator Gary Peters said, what America was about to hear was misinformation. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I had never heard that term before in academic medicine.
They're going to tell the most renowned cardiologist in the world that what he's reporting to them about what he's seeing in his patients when he treats hundreds of patients, and he's been doing this for decades, and he's put out more studies than anybody, that he's wrong in what he's saying about this experimental medical product. This is crazy to me. And a lot of people don't even know who this man is. You understand? People that were resisting, they all know who he is because he was one of the biggest voices in, speaking out against these shots and trying to warn people about the heart complications.
Important deliberations. That's November 19th, 2020. What was he doing? He was using an old communist propaganda technique.
Mm-hmm.
He was attempting to gain leverage over me before a word ever came out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
We should never have our public servants ever try to gain leverage over anyone who is coming to Washington to help the nation on an important issue.
Yep.
As introduced, I'm an internist, I'm a cardiologist. I believe I'm the most published individual who's ever testified on matters related to COVID-19 in any of these hearings.
Yep.
I've seen and examined more patients. I've examined more data, and I'm one of the most published.
And the funny thing about these pharmaceutical doctors, Fauci and all them, they don't even see patients. They're not even people that are qualified to even tell us if something works or not.
People on the topic in the world. And as a cardiologist, I can tell you, my role in this was to fight disease, preserve life, and above all, do no harm. Do no harm. Now, the topic today is myocarditis or heart damage from the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm a cardiologist. I know the topic well. I've examined thousands of patients with this problem. Thousands. Before the pandemic, I had 2 patients ever with this problem. There's 1,065 papers in the peer-reviewed literature on COVID vaccine myocarditis. So let me summarize them for you. The first one that came on my radar screen that was alarming came from Washington University in St. Louis, August 18th of 2021. The first author is Verma and colleagues, New England Journal of Medicine. 42-year-old man comes into Washington University Hospital with vaccine myocarditis. The infection is ruled out. It's the vaccine. He's in the hospital. This is one of our best hospitals in the United States. He dies 3 days after taking Moderna. They can't save him in the hospital.
Say, Dr. McCullough, move the microphone.
They claim that Moderna is the most dangerous one. They're all terrible, but they said that's the one that really had everybody effed up.
Just a little bit away from you.
Then one was reported from Korea by Choi and colleagues. This is now a younger man. Just a few days after Pfizer, he comes in the hospital. He dies within 8 hours of being in the hospital. I can tell you, I'm a cardiologist. That doesn't even happen with heart attacks. He dies within 8 hours. I examined all of the slides and the images that the Koreans had showed us. It looked like somebody took a blowtorch to that heart. It was so completely fried with inflammation. His heart was destroyed. These cases, which were widely known at the time, should have gotten everyone's attention. Everyone should have been laser focused on this. We should never have someone die after taking a vaccine. That's directly caused to the vaccine. Then Gill and colleagues, Connecticut, published in Archives of Pathology, 2 boys, aged 16 and 17, who die a few days after taking Pfizer. These are teenagers. They're found dead at home by their parents. They're absolutely horrified. They request an autopsy. They call in University of Michigan and University of Minnesota to look over what are they finding at autopsy. Conclusion, it's Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine myocarditis, unequivocal. These are autopsy confirmed cases. So for all—
So then, this is the point. They see all these safety issues and never one time do they try to look at this. They don't try to call in any of the experts to try to figure out what's going on. This should have been off of the market years ago.
The mothers in the room, how would they feel if they found their children dead after taking a COVID-19 vaccine? This is in the peer-reviewed literature. This is not misinformation. Everyone should be paying attention to this. This is not conjecture. This is in the peer-reviewed literature. So we started to ask ourselves, what is going on? Turns out that Pfizer and Moderna and Janssen are the genetic code for the spike protein. The spike protein is the damaging part of the virus. The spike protein is.
And here's another little fun fact, that the spike protein that they used was from HIV. So now they have something called VAIDS, vaccine-induced immune deficiency syndrome. These people are devils. They are devils. They need to. I don't even know what you do with this situation. I really don't know. But I just feel like people, as long as people are having cognitive dissonance about this, and as long as people don't want to accept the truth of what these people have done, they're going to get away with it. And they're going to do it to you again.
Is loaded into the body, and it causes tremendous damage in some. Acute myocarditis appears to have some genetic predilection, and all of the vials of the vaccine are not the same. But I can tell you, I'm concerned that until the vaccines are stopped.
And another thing, I forget which vaccine company that it was. It might have been Pfizer. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But what they did was the vaccine formula that they got approved for, when they put it to market, wasn't the same formula. These pharmaceutical companies are doing way too much, and it needs to stop.
There will be cases of acute myocarditis. And to finish, we've had 216 vaccine deaths this year alone. So if the vaccine campaign continues, we have to look at what are we getting out of it now, 4.5 years of the campaign, and how many more people will die. I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. McCullough. Our next witness is Dr. Jordan Vaughn. Dr. Vaughn
These doctors speak for like 5 minutes each, and I feel like everything they say is so compelling. You have to watch this in its entirety. You know, the link will be in the description.
Physician and clinical researcher in Birmingham, Alabama. As owner and CEO of MedHelp Clinics, Dr. Vaughn has directed his organization to the leading edge of early outpatient treatment of COVID-19 for his patients and greater Birmingham community. Dr. Vaughn has treated over 4,000 long COVID and COVID vaccine injured patients. Dr. Vaughn.
Thank you. Chairman Johnson and Ranking Member Blumenthal, thank you for having me. I'm going to dovetail a little bit off what Dr. McCullough said. And one of the things that as a clinician who also had about 200 people working for him and actually seeing about 170,000 patients a year, when COVID came along, I had to really figure out how to not only help my staff and make sure they're safe, but also help the patients that my organization was responsible for. And that really made me dive into understanding the pathology. And what I came away with was understanding that the spike protein, the S1 subunit specifically, is not a benign protein. It triggers inflammation, it disrupts endothelial barriers, it induces fibrin resistant to breakdown, and it promotes a lot of amyloid aggregates, which is what I research. These effects impair oxygen delivery, damage blood vessels, contribute to clotting pathologies that manifest with a lot of the symptoms that we're seeing in the long COVID and vaccine injured, which to this day is a huge amount of people. We're talking upwards of 10 to 15 million people in America that are being affected by the consequences of COVID in the long form or vaccine injury. And the typical symptoms are things like heart racing, brain fog, shortness of breath, and post-exertional malaise.
A lot of these side effects, a lot of people might not even realize that they could be caused from these products. So that's why you got to watch this, because they tell you all these different kinds of side effects and symptoms from these products and what they're seeing in their practices. And all these doctors, they had to come out the hospitals and stuff because they couldn't treat the patients the way they knew worked. So these doctors, they can treat you like through telehealth or whatever and stuff like that. Like they have, you know, doctors that you can go to online and tell them your symptoms and they try to help you, because you cannot get help in university hospitals and stuff like that. They make it where you can't treat the people with the drugs that you know work like a doctor should be allowed to.
My clinic, I actually use immunofluorescent microscopy to be able to actually see what's going on in the blood and look for these amyloid aggregates. Some as young as teenagers that are unable to stand. Others are previously active adults suffering small strokes without typical identifiable causes. These are not abstract theories. They're the lived realities of my patients in Alabama and beyond. The mRNA injection, heralded as a solution, introduced a novel mechanism, lipid nanoparticles delivering modified mRNA that instructs the cells to produce a stabilized spike protein. Unlike traditional vaccines, this approach resulted in uncontrolled production of the spike protein for an unknown duration and distributes it widely across.
And see, this is the thing. They didn't test it long enough to find out how all these crazy new things that they put in here are going to affect the body. They use the people as guinea pigs for something. It's crazy to me. I just don't understand how nothing is being done about this.
Across organs, including the heart, brain, and vasculature, and ovaries and testes. The actual EMA, their assessment of Comirnaty, which is Pfizer's vaccine, noted biodistribution beyond the injection site, contradicting claims that the vaccine stays in the arm. And a recent groundbreaking study using single-cell precision nanocarrier identification revealed LNP accumulation in the heart tissue of mice with adverse proteomic changes in immune and vascular proteins, raising concerns about the cardiac complications that dovetail with what we were seeing when we were looking at the COVID-19 vaccine myocarditis. I will tell my first encounter with a vaccine injury came in winter of 2021. 69-year-old man from Alabama presented with unexplained shortness of breath.
I remember back then you could go on BitChute and just see all of the people. I remember before Instagram started blocking people, like you would look on the pages and they would just be blacked out of people coming on there with tremors, Parkinson's, skin disorders, all kind of autoimmune weird things with their skin and stuff. And like they were being blocked. And like they're telling their story and they're being blocked. Whole groups of people that are injured, they take the whole group down and stuff. I mean, it's just nasty what they did.
A patient of mine, I really had no other reason that he had the shortness of breath. And after the second Pfizer dose, he actually had significant shortness of breath. I couldn't figure it out in a sense because it would typically be that he had a pulmonary embolism, but empirical anticoagulation and antiplatelet therapy brought rapid improvement. This case prompted deeper investigation that the spike protein's ability to induce fibrin that's resistant to breakdown, activate platelets irreversibly, and damage the inside of our vessels that run to every part of our body and every organ, explained his symptoms and those of thousands more since. I have treated approximately 4,000 patients suffering from long COVID and vaccine injury, or both. Many were young and previously healthy. For those with vaccine injury, trust in public.
Just think about all those young athletes that you see falling down on the field and stuff like that. That's what's happening.
Institutions has been shattered. Many were coerced under the August 2021 federal mandates, despite legitimate hesitations due to prior infection or personal health risks. They knew their body better than the agencies. Now disabled.
One of my friends, she had a medical exemption from her doctor saying that she could not take those products because of her medical condition. And she was still fired, even though she had a doctor's exemption of taking it. You know, all these people knew better than the doctors.
They are dismissed or ignored by the systems that mandated their compliance. The myocarditis signal is also a big thing. This spring of 2021, a clear safety signal emerged. Myocarditis in young males linked to mRNA vaccines. The Department of Defense confirmed cases of rare heart inflammation, and peer-reviewed studies later detected circulating spike protein in post-vaccine myocarditis cases. Autopsy findings have confirmed fatal vaccine-induced myocarditis. Yet federal authorities accelerated licensing and mandates, sidelining concerns. The CDC's hesitation to issue a health alert on myocarditis, and the FDA's former CBER director promoting vaccines on social media crossed a line from oversight to advocacy. This was not regulation, it was endorsement.
They advocated for these shots everywhere. They mandated it everywhere, knowing good and well that it has serious safety concerns. And I don't know, you can't just make me think it was just money why they would do something like this.
Informed consent is the foundation of a patient-physician relationship. Absent the regulators providing that information, that relationship is irreparably harmed, and the practice of medicine will continue to suffer. In closing, I urge you to stop blindly following the science. Science does not lead anywhere. It is an observer, measurer, and descriptor. It must inform leadership, not replace it. When leaders hide behind the science to justify policy, they abdicate responsibility. We need leadership that humbly engages with data, listens to patients, and actually acts with courage. Thank you. I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Vaughn. Next witness is Dr. James Thorpe. Dr. Thorpe is a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist and maternal fetal
what he's
medicine
about to
specialist with over 44 years of clinical experience. As U.S. veteran and widely published physician, he has testified internationally, served as a journal peer reviewer, board member of the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine.
Now look at how renowned these people are. They're all more renowned than Fauci and any of these other people that made all these decisions for us. The people that made decisions for us, they don't even treat patients. They don't know anything that's going on. You know, it's just wicked.
Examiner for the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Dr. Thorpe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My patients, I focus on the most vulnerable patients, pregnant women and preborn. It is difficult to conceive of a more egregious breach of medical ethics by the government-controlled medical industrial complex than the promotion of COVID-19 vaccines to pregnant women, thereby, through transplacental transfer, effectively vaccinating their unborn and newborn children. This campaign was not accidental. It was calculated. Pregnant women were targeted deliberately for two reasons. First, women are the primary decision makers of healthcare across the human lifespan, a known marketing principle. Number two, pregnant women are the most vulnerable patients. If they could be convinced that the vaccine was safe and effective, it would imply that it was safe and effective for everyone. From the outset of the pandemic, this vaccine campaign was never grounded in biological science, but rather in behavioral science, specifically the manipulation of public perception through influence, fear, and persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
That's
what they did, that fear, you know, make you scared to where you'll give up all your rights and lose your whole entire common sense and just ask no questions. And, you know, they're going to do this again if people don't get upset and demand the truth. And I feel like people that took this should want to know so they can mind their health. You don't have to, you know, have health problems from this. You know, there's ways to purge it and there's ways to help yourself. But so many years done went by. You know, they should have did something about this from the beginning. Now everybody knows there's something wrong. And I feel, and most people don't want to take the shots anymore. There's only a handful of people left that's still stupid enough to get it. But, you know, it's late now. Years have gone by. People could have been long have minded their health regarding these things.
The government outsourced much of this psychological operations to NGOs, which disseminated emotionally charged and misleading messaging. These entities falsely assured pregnant women that the vaccines were proven safe and essential for maternal and fetal newborn health, despite the fact that early evidence indicated quite the opposite.
They knew from the beginning.
Pregnancy itself was protective against COVID-19 maternal mortality. Dr. Jay Winston, an initiative director at Harvard School of Public Health, described the government's vaccine marketing approach in a 2020 CBS News interview. He explained that the strategy was to, quote, go for the low-hanging fruit, those easiest to pick and harvest, end quote. And the fruit, in quotes, tragically, were pregnant women. Only this deception was institutionalized in the now infamous Shimabukuro study published on April 21st, 2021 in the digital version of the New England Journal of Medicine. 21 authors claimed the miscarriage rate was 12.6%, but the raw data revealed an 82% miscarriage rate.
Doctors were saying
in
that
women
from the beginning.
vaccinated during the first trimester. This figure mirrors the effects of chemical abortion drugs such as RU486. Also, in the same journal edition, on the same day, an op-ed appeared by CDC Director Rochelle Walensky and journal editor-in-chief Eric Rubin. These publications were riddled with conflicts of interest and deliberate misrepresentations intended to coerce pregnant women into taking vaccines. Subsequent studies have also claimed that COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective during pregnancy and have been
I don't see why people were not questioning why they were going so hard for these products. They went hard. It's like they wanted every person in a free world to have this. And it makes no sense.
Rebuked by respected researchers. These publications are fundamentally compromised by serious conflicts of interest, ranging from biased funding sources and institutional mandates, and even threats to their medical licenses and board certifications.
Mhm.
Between 2020 and 2022,
And
pharmaceutical
that's a lot of reason why a lot of doctors were seeing things go wrong, but they were afraid to say because they wanted to keep their jobs. They're cowards. A lot of people are cowards, but that's a lot of the reason why nothing got done too, because doctors see, oh God, if I say something, I'll lose my license and they're going to attack me and destroy my reputation and I'll never be able, you know? So
companies paid $1.06 billion to reviewers at leading medical journals, the New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, Lancet, and BMJ, thus corrupting the peer review process. At least 6 existing studies, 3 from CDC, FDA, and 2 from Pfizer, revealed major breaches in safety signals for COVID-19 vaccines and pregnancy. These findings were ignored. Conversely, countless independent researchers with no conflicts of interest published findings that contradicted the false narratives and the pharmaceutical industry narratives, only to be rewarded by persecution, censorship, and threats to their medical licenses and board certifications. This is not hypothetical. It happened to me. On February 8th, 2025, our team of researchers published a peer-reviewed study in Science, Public Health Policy, and the Law. We identified 37 adverse pregnancy outcomes significantly associated with COVID-19 vaccine, including miscarriage, stillbirth, birth defects, cervical insufficiency, premature rupture membranes, preterm birth, and
I'm telling you, they said this from the beginning. Why 5 years later, this is still on the market? People really need to want to question and get upset and do something. I don't understand how people can sit back and be complacent about this. This is the worst crime against humanity in history.
death of the newborn. Lin and colleagues in a major journal publication documented that the COVID-19 vaccine traverses the placenta, enters the fetal blood, and bioactively produces spike protein in the placenta and the lining of the uterus. Recently, animal studies revealed the mRNA COVID vaccine causes the destruction of 60% of the ovarian reserve in rats. This catastrophic public health failure was financed with taxpayer dollars and channeled through federal agencies to medical gatekeepers, such as the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, ABOG, and the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, SMFM. These organizations have abandoned their ethics and responsibilities to physicians and patients and must be held accountable. I urge the government to immediately—
These people are the biggest damn cowards. These organizations and these people, like, to allow these pharmaceutical companies to get away with something like this. I mean, it's crazy. All because they're afraid, and had they all stuck together, there's safety in numbers, but they take some of the most renowned doctors and destroy them. That'll make you be like, well, let me shut up. Let me not say what I seen. Let me just turn up down my back. The nurses too, everybody, all those people, they knew what was wrong. They're in the hospitals treating the people. They know what's going on. That senator asked about remdesivir because remdesivir was one of the treatments that they had to give, and it killed a lot of people. It was just a drug that was always terrible, and then they rebranded it and gave it for this, but it just always was a drug that didn't have good safety, and it always has safety concerns. So I can't wait to hear when they start having the hearings about remdesivir, because that's another thing that they should have took off the market. All of the treatments for COVID that they did were all wrong. They all were just wrong. And it's like, I just really would love to know the real reason why they did this. I mean, I just can't believe that it's just money. It's just unbelievable.
All funding to these entities, and to end every promotional campaign that coerces or recommends experimental mRNA therapies to pregnant women. This must stop now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thorpe. Our next witness is Dr. Joel Walskog. Dr. Walskog is an orthopedic surgeon originally from Wisconsin. He experienced an adverse event after his Moderna COVID-19 injection that he received.
Now, this is the doctor that was vaccine injured. Many doctors, many nurses, and people in the medical field were vaccine injured. I saw one nurse that developed like a permanent tremors and stuff like that. Some people got paralysis, and they just were ignored. They were ignored, and they were hidden and blocked and stuff like that, so nobody would know. It's despicable what they've done here. And it's sad because it took 5 years for this to get here. And it's probably going to take 5 more years for them to go back and forth over this and stuff like that. It's just a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And that's why Fauci got pardoned. And I don't know. I mean, I'm hopefully that none of Biden's stuff stands because they finding out that he wasn't really running the country and it's all violation of the Constitution or all the decisions they made and blah, 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 blah. This is just, it makes me weary.
On December 30th, 2020. He has subsequently been diagnosed with transverse myelitis, an unspecified autoimmune disorder, and autonomic dysfunction. He is medically retired. He is now co-chairman of React 19. Dr. Walskog.
Thank you, Senator Johnson.
This goes on for like 3 hours. I want you to see all these panels speak for the first time, and then I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to come back tomorrow, and hopefully we can get through this tomorrow. If not, I'll have to make it 3 parts. But I really want to go through this so I can make reels of this and, get this information out to people, because it's important for people to realize what is in these products so that they can mind their health. People need to know what the side effects are so they can mind their health, because a lot of people might not even realize that these side effects are coming from this and that they do have treatments for people that are injured.
Senator Blumenthal and the subcommittee for inviting me to testify on the development and safety of the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm Joel Walskog, a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, now medically disabled after 1 dose of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. Before the pandemic, I enjoyed a successful practice in Wisconsin, performing over 800 major surgeries annually. Trusting my health authorities, my practice followed CDC COVID-19 guidelines, delaying surgeries and even temporarily closing. I proudly elected to get vaccinated, and within a week, I developed leg weakness, numbness, substantial balance loss, leading to falls, including one while treating a patient. Diagnosed with transverse myelitis, a spinal cord lesion at T8, T9, I was stunned that my providers dismissed any vaccine link, despite news of similar cases halting the AstraZeneca trial in the UK. 4 years later, while I can walk, I have been diagnosed with dysautonomia and an undefined autoimmune disorder, both debilitating conditions affecting multiple body systems. I remain medically retired. The career I loved and worked so hard for is now gone. In 2021, federal health agencies assured Americans that the COVID-19 vaccine trials were rigorous and closely monitored with rigorous post-marketing surveillance. They also claimed a robust safety net that would handle what they said were rare and mostly mild injuries with monitoring, follow-up, and financial aid. After my own vaccine injury, I learned the hard way that nothing could be farther from the truth. In my own battle to restore my health, I could not find a single reliable source of information from the CDC, from the FDA, or the NIH. Further, answers did not come from medical teams, the media, or even medical journals. Rather, the answers were being pieced together by tens of thousands of vaccine-injured patients, huddled together in social media-based support groups who are constantly fighting for their right to simply exist. You will hear today a great deal about myocarditis, maternal fetal maternal fetal complications, and blood clotting disorders after the COVID-19 shots. I hope to talk more about the neurological adverse events to the COVID vaccines. These are the most common adverse event to the COVID shots. I am now co-chair of React 19, which is a national, science-based, non-political, nonprofit that represents over 36,000 Americans seriously injured by the COVID-19 shots.
That's crazy.
Our mission is to provide financial, physical, and emotional support. This gives me a unique
So
perspective.
I'm telling y'all, all of these doctors, there's so many of them. Dr. Stella Emanuel was one of the first ones I seen, African doctor, but all these doctors that were slandered, they went off and made other practices mostly centered around helping injured people. That is how bad it is.
To share the collective experience of those who have been harmed, not just by the COVID-19 vaccines themselves, but also by the US government. React 19 surveyed our 36,000 members, asking if the FDA takes vaccine injury seriously.
No.
100% said false. Not even one person voted favorably. The vaccine injured share a uniform story. We did our duty for our country, became injured, disabled, or died. We further reported to VAERS and vSafe, repeatedly contacted our elected officials and applied to the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, or CICP, only to face silence from the VAERS, no response from vSafe, ghosting by our own representatives, and a 98% rejection rate from the CICP. The many cries for help were ignored.
Horrible.
Some were studied at the NIH in a program under Dr. Fauci, where they were diagnosed with vaccine complications, but never disclosed to the public, despite promises that the NIH would do so. Privately, the agencies said neurological conditions needed early recognition and treatment, while publicly they remained silent and often denying that they were even treating vaccine injuries. Rather, they promoted boosters and high safety claims, while the White House directed social media to censor, quote, true stories of vaccine injury,
They
end
sure
quote.
did.
Relegating NIH confirmed injuries into silence. That silence by health authorities, elected representatives, and even our White House has resulted in even more severe health outcomes and worse for many, death. The PrEP Act shields drug companies from injury liability and strips Americans of their constitutional right
Now pay close attention to what he's saying about this.
to due process and jury trial. This liability shield places the responsibility squarely on the US government to address this crisis. Our constitutional rights must be replaced with effective safety monitoring and compensation. Today, these programs are dismal failures. Congress must urgently reform these failing systems or remove itself as a middleman and repeal the PrEP Act.
Yep.
An analysis of clinical trial data showed that for
Because that PrEP Act is really taking away your constitutional rights. Everybody's hollering about constitutional rights and due process and all this. This really needs to change immediately. Immediately. And to me, the stuff that liberals are worried about all the time are the things that don't matter. The things that matter, it's not even on their radar.
Shows that for every 800 people vaccinated, one suffers a serious adverse event. We are here today to end the silence for the 1 in 800. It is time to stop politicizing vaccine injuries and start building meaningful recognition, research, competent care, and fair and just compensation. At React 19, we say we've had negative reactions, but we're about seeking positive actions. I will not stop until these humanitarian goals are met. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walscock.
God bless
Our
these
next
people.
witness is Mr. Aaron Siri. Ms. Siri is the managing partner of Siri and Glimstad with over 85 professionals. He has handled numerous high-profile cases involving challenges to medical mandates, restoring exemptions, agency transparency, including forcing FDA.
I mean, they fought like crazy. I remember hearing about them a lot, and they fought like crazy to like stop mandates and this and that and this. I mean, I heard them a lot. And God bless these people too. You know, I'm sure and hoping that somebody will take our case in the entertainment industry, because we also went through a similar thing and our rights were violated and a lot of us lost our jobs and stuff like that. I was one of those people, but majority of our people, you know, complied. But the few that didn't, you know, they really were, you know, destroyed. A lot of people were destroyed. A lot of people had to retire and move. A lot of people, you know, a lot of people are still not made whole yet for what happened to us. You know, they violated the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The unions did not like support us at all. The people that didn't take the shots, they just ignored us and treated us terrible, like they're saying they were all treated. And it's just a crime. It's just a huge violation that they've done against humanity, and millions of people were affected. And I just hope that, you know, somehow justice can be, you know, given for all these people.
To release the COVID-19 vaccine licensure documents and deposing immunologists, infectious disease doctors, and vaccinologists. Mr. Siri.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Yeah, our vaccine practice, I believe, which has over 40 professionals, it doesn't represent pharmaceutical companies, I believe is the largest vaccine practice in the world. When we litigate vaccine cases, we cannot rely on credentials or fancy titles.
Mm-hmm.
We have to prove our claims with high impact data and sources. For example, I saw a slide put up that showed 3 million lives were saved from COVID-19 vaccines. The citation to it was to the Commonwealth Fund. If you follow that, that's not a peer-reviewed study. That's a blog.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blog that used a mathematical model to calculate that 3 million lives were saved.
Let me tell you, this guy right here is a beast. Their team are beasts. I think they win all their cases when they go against these companies. And this is what I'm telling you, facts and receipts. There's a show called The High Wire with Del Bigtree. That's where I first saw him at. And one of his groups they work with is called I Can or something like that. So you can look at those, but really look at this guy and go look at their cases and just watch him, because he's a beast.
So I agree with the Senator Blumenthal who said, you know, quote, claims made, I think you meant regarding vaccines, we need to examine the evidence. And that's an example of that. We need to look carefully at the evidence we are relying upon when we are making claims about vaccines.
The government has no
I don't think that if I went into court and I was relying on a blog that used a mathematical model, I would be laughed out of court if I was making those claims about vaccines. But unfortunately, when it comes to promoting vaccines, well, that's what we often see. The underlying data is not typically really carefully evaluated. Claims about what vaccines do when they're positive, because our health agencies are responsible for promoting them, easily made. Claims that vaccines cause any harms or injuries often get ignored, no matter how good the underlying data. I also heard that deaths sharply declined in 2021. Well, when you look at all-cause mortality in the United States, deaths in 2021 went up compared to 2020, and presumably most of the most frail, weak among us died in 2020 from COVID. We should have had a reduction in all-cause mortality in the United States. We did not. And those numbers you can't argue with. They're binary. You're either dead or you're alive. You can argue whether the vaccine killed you or didn't kill you, whether COVID killed you or didn't kill you, but it can't argue with all-cause mortality.
And they said you can't argue with them insurance actuaries either, because they said that there was a huge uptick in death after them shots came out.
And we did not have a reduction in all-cause mortality in 2021. We had an increase. And we really need to answer that question. We have sent many letters to our federal health officials trying to get an answer to that. With that said, not only do we need to carefully study the data and science before we go and litigate our vaccine cases, because again, I don't have a MD or a PhD or an MPH. We also need to understand the economic and regulatory framework around vaccines. And COVID-19 vaccines did not just fall into a vacuum. They fell into a very well-developed regulatory and economic framework for vaccines that has developed over the last 40 years. For every product on the market, you can sue the manufacturer for harm. for design defect claims, meaning the claim that the product could have made safer. I mean, literally, look around this room.
This is
Planes,
profound what
cars,
he's about to
pharmaceutical
say.
drugs, every one. There's only one product in America you cannot sue the manufacturer for design defect claim to claim that it could have been made safer, and that are vaccines. I heard, injections, vaccines. My definition of vaccine is any product for which the government needs to give it immunity from harms. To me, that's what a vaccine is, because some prevent infection, some don't. That's what a vaccine is, meaning it can't survive without that immunity, apparently. Why did vaccines get this immunity, which was provided in 1986 under the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act? Because leading up to 86, there were only 3 routine childhood vaccines, MMR, OPV, and DTP, and they were causing so much harm and causing so much liability that all the manufacturers were going out of business to stop making them.
Are y'all listening? Okay. There were only 3 vaccines before they made that law. And they were killing people left and right, and they were horrible. That's the reason why they gave them immunity. And now there's 100 vaccines they want you to take. Can you let that sink in the next time you think about getting one of these products?
Congress, instead of forcing those manufacturers to do what every other product manufacturer needs to do in that situation, which is what? Make a better, safer product. Instead said, you know what? We're just going to give you immunity. We're going to make it so nobody can sue you for those harms. And you can keep selling your product to the American public, no matter how many children it kills or injures.
And they've been getting kickback money from pharma ever since.
And the issue is that immunity was not just given for those 3 products. It was given for any childhood vaccine, routine child vaccine that was developed thereafter. I tell you this not to take issue with childhood vaccines, but to explain to you the regulatory framework in which vaccines have developed over the last 40 years. We have now gone from 3 injections in the first year of life under the CDC Schedule in 86 to 29 injections, including in utero, if a child follows the CDC schedule today. Every one of those vaccines, save one, was developed by a pharmaceutical company knowing they would not be responsible for the injuries.
So just listen to what he's saying. When they make these products, they know that they are not going to be responsible if they kill everybody with it. If they paralyze you, they hurt your baby or whatever. They know that they're not going to be in trouble. So why would they care to make a safe product? And a lot of people don't know this. And then they're mad at people that don't want to take it. But who in their right mind would?
That are caused by those products. So when you have drug trials where pharmaceutical companies, they care about losing money, they don't want to lose money on their drugs. They often do multi-year placebo-controlled trials before they get on the market because they don't want to end up upside down. They're there to make money. But with vaccine products, because they don't have that financial incentive, they have the disincentive. Almost every childhood vaccine.
That explains why there's so many vaccines in the schedule now. It's just money. Those products probably don't even work. It's just a way to make money. That's scary if you really think about it.
Vaccine in this country is licensed based on clinical trials with no placebo control, save for COVID-19 vaccine, often days or weeks, up to maybe 6 months of safety review after injection, and are often extremely underpowered. Those trials could never have really confirmed the safety of this product. And my submission to this committee laid out every single vaccine and put them in detail. I will, since I'm running out of time, I'll just.
So all these people are submitting evidence that they need for these people to look at to, I don't know what they're going to do with this information. Okay. All I know is Democrats have no facts and no receipts. They have none. Because they're so messy and they have none. You're going to see the pharma person who's going to speak after this, the doctor that's trying to, be on the side of pharmaceuticals.
Just wrap up by saying this.
That's the guy sitting next to him.
You might say, well, okay, the pharmaceutical companies did that, but why would the FDA allow it? It's because unfortunately our federal health authorities are hopelessly conflicted. Congress gave them conflicting structural duties. They're responsible for promoting vaccines and for defending them in the Vaccine Compensation Program. And you also ask them to be responsible for safety. Those conflict. One has overtaken the other. And for the most part, based on our over 2,004 requests to federal health agencies over the years on behalf of our client, I could tell you our federal health agencies act like partners with pharma. They encourage their inroads. They act basically in the shoes of pharma because when the immunity to liability was given to the pharmaceutical companies, Congress recognized that apparently and transferred all the safety functions to HHS and the mandate for safer childhood vaccines. And by doing so, it's made them hopelessly conflicted. That was very, very quick way to try and convey the regulatory and economic framework into which COVID-19 vaccines fell into, and why, from the pharmaceutical and FDA's perspective, the COVID-19 vaccine clinical trials may have been robust, and they were compared to childhood vaccines, but compared to drugs or anybody that actually wants to assess safety, they absolutely were not robust. They were incredibly anemic. And as for post-licensure, regulators didn't do their jobs, but really they acted like pharmaceutical companies seeking to cover up harms and avoid reputational damage and financial liability. I hope this hearing can help begin the process of changing that. Thank you, and I apologize for going over on my time.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm gonna let this last guy speak because he's speaking in defense of vaccines and everything, and he sounds like a fool. And then we're gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna come back tomorrow. I might have to do this in 2 or 3 parts because I want all this information out there, because it's important that everybody understands what you are dealing with and stop taking these products and really start demanding the truth of what's going on so you can mind your health.
Siri, our final witness is governor and doctor. I've always found senators like to be called doctor if they are one. So Governor and Dr. Josh Green. Governor Green is the 9th governor of Hawaii. He earned his degrees in biology and anthropology from Swarthmore College and an MD from Penn State's College of Medicine. Dr. Green served 2 terms in the Hawaii House of Representatives, 3 terms in the Hawaii State Senate, and a term as lieutenant governor, during which he was the state's point person addressing the COVID pandemic. Dr. Green was elected governor in December 2022. Governor Green.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Thank you so much for welcoming me. Thank you, Ranking Member Blumenthal. Thank you,
already
Senators.
look like somebody that can't be trusted.
First of all, I'm coming to you as a physician. When I speak as a doctor, I'm here to say that vaccines save lives, period. I care about saving lives. You care about saving lives. Everyone in this room, I believe, cares about saving lives. But I've seen firsthand children dying from the spread of preventable diseases because of vaccine skepticism, because people lose faith. I've seen the lives of some children in one house who are vaccinated live, while children in the house next door who have not been vaccinated die. And we saw a lot of this during COVID. I want to tell you a little bit about my COVID experience as the COVID liaison in my state, a state of 1.4 million people. And let me preface this by saying we worked very closely with President Trump and his team. And then subsequently—
Now let's talk about President Trump and his team, because he was in office when COVID came out. And he was the one that did Operation Warp Speed to help rush this product to market. So the thing that always seems hypocritical to me with liberals is that they hate this president, but they all took the vaccine that he helped rush the market. You understand? I'm not mad at President Trump for really anything except that vaccine. And a lot of people that are, like real, hardcore supporters of him, they'll say, well, he inherited a lot of that government, the like Fauci and those guys. And he probably should have got rid of them. He learned this time around and he didn't have any of them, but he trusted the advisors and stuff like that. But I feel like coming back this time, he learned his lessons from the past, but it is what it is. He still was the person that rushed the vaccine to market, and he still will not come out and say that, the vaccine is dangerous, or I'm sorry that I, put this out or whatever. You know what I mean? So I feel like if you ain't mad at Trump for that, you ain't mad at him for nothing. Because to me, I don't think he's done anything worse than that. So I just always feel it's a huge hypocrisy with liberals and Donald Trump, because if you're not mad about that vaccine, you're not mad about anything, in my opinion. And I just don't want to hear nothing you have to say, honestly.
Lieutenant Governor, I was able to work very closely with President Biden and his team, and I appreciate them both. I appreciate that President Trump, using Operation Warp Speed, got us a vaccination in—
So he's a liberal dude. He's going to try to throw out there so everybody knows, oh, it was President Trump's fault. He's the one that got the vaccine. You understand? So then you have to make sure that they throw that out there. It is what happened, but they're going to throw that out there. They weren't mentioning that for a long time when they was taking credit for the vaccine. But now that they're in the hot seat with the vaccine, oh, well, now it's President Trump's fault because he was the one that got us the vaccine.
an extraordinary time. We were desperate as healthcare providers. I worked as an emergency room physician.
And another thing that makes me mad with people like him is that he keeps talking about the past. Right now, we are talking about, are these products safe today? And was there safety data that they knew that they didn't tell us? That's what they're in here for today. Not none of the shit that he's going to say.
Virtually every single weekend for 20 plus years, including through the whole pandemic. And this is what I saw. I saw people dying of terrible disease when they caught the Delta variant of COVID, especially. I saw people recover better when they had been vaccinated.
There's no data that says
In
that.
Hawaii, we had the lowest mortality rate in the country. We had the highest vaccination rate in the country. People have asked me in the course of the prep for this hearing, well, is Hawaii safer because it's a tropical island state? No, actually, it's quite the contrary. We had COVID coming from east in Asia, where it originated.
I would love to see that lawyer sit next to him, rip him to shreds, because I know that all what he's saying is lies.
And west, travelers from the mainland. But we put together programs based on science. Day by day, I counted case after case after case because there was so much uncertainty.
Doesn't
I was
he
able
sound
to
like he's
share
just
in our state
rambling
where we
and
had
not talking about nothing?
infectious
Double
disease
talk.
doctors, where we had extra need for ventilators, where we had extra need for vaccinations, where the rates were low.
They already found out that the ventilators was what killed the people. That was the wrong treatment for people that are having some upper respiratory issue or whatever. So all of the treatments that they said to use was what was making the people die in the hospitals. They weren't treating them right. More people probably would have survived if they would have just listened to the experts about the treatments. I don't know where they got these ideas for these treatments from. I would like to know who told them to give them remdesivir and ventilators and stuff like that. It was just crazy.
Lower. And day by day, working with all the healthcare providers in my state and listening to others, not mandating. I'm not a mandate guy. That may come as a surprise to some today. We were able to make sure that we had a science-based response. We put together a safe travels program, which tested anyone coming into the islands so that they wouldn't travel or that they would isolate, quarantine if they were positive so they wouldn't spread the disease. And over time, we had the experience that no one else had. We saw death rates constantly lower than all the other states, with the single exception of Vermont.
Where is he talking about the safety of these shots? What did he just say that proves any of these doctors wrong in what they've just now said? And why is he talking about shit happening at the start of COVID when everybody else is on what's happening right now? The gaslight is on with these people.
Occasion. I tell you this because we have to follow science, and I truly believe that we can't politicize science or vaccinations or any of these public health matters. And it's very important going forward. This is where we should unite with one another. We should heal our country together in this space. Now, another experience I had, measles. I was the doctor that was asked to
What on earth is he talking about measles for? It's a COVID-19 vaccine safety hearing.
go to Samoa when they had their outbreak of measles. Why did they have their outbreak? Because they lost faith in the vaccination program. And it was tragic. The Children's Health Defense went there and they scared people after tragedy. Admitted.
Listen, how many of you are old enough to remember when you got chickenpox and you got the measles and everybody would get the measles in your house and they were good? Remember that episode of the Brady Bunch? I think it was Peter got the measles. Then they all got the measles. Alice got the measles. I mean, it's just like the pharmaceutical companies today, they make their money off of fearing you into taking some medicine when your body is fully equipped to cure you and heal you from most illnesses. You know what I'm saying? And then when you get to the hospital today, your doctor is not allowed to treat you the way they are, the way that they feel is best. They have to listen to all these doctors that don't treat patients and listening to pharmaceutical companies on what to take. It's a mess. I do not trust this medical field for nothing at all. I do not trust any of these government agencies and none of these doctors out here, really. They scare me to death.
It should have never happened. I had children die in my arms who were not vaccinated but died of measles.
Why is he
This
talking about
beautiful
measles?
boy was with me and a pediatrician. Dr. Nadine Tansala had a terrible case of the measles, and some of his relatives passed away from the disease. But we went there and we vaccinated 37,000 individuals in 48 hours, and the measles just stopped. And
We're
I say
not
this
talking
because
about the measles vaccine. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the COVID-19 experimental mRNA shot with the spike proteins. That's what we're talking about. These people make me so angry. What kind of foolishness is this? Who can't see this listening to these people that they are full of bullcrap?
this is what we have to look forward to in the future.
Wow, I can't.
If we somehow fall into a place where we don't believe in vaccinations any longer. And we shouldn't do it blindly. We should study.
I damn sure don't believe in vaccinations any longer after I heard what that lawyer said. He said 3 vaccines for kids before they gave them immunity, and now there's like 100. Make it make sense, okay? Please. Please. If you can't see the rope-a-dope and the okey-dope with what these people are doing, I don't know what to tell you. Y'all really got to go look at that lawyer. The High Wire and ICANN. High Wire is the Big Tree Show, but that's where I saw that lawyer first. And his company, his organization is called ICANN.
Them. We should check for safety. Absolutely, that is essential in science. But these vaccinations save lives. They saved many lives during COVID. In my state, they saved over 10,000 lives.
How does he know?
We anticipated mass
He doesn't
casualties.
know if though this is what the lawyer's saying. Those statistics that they're saying are not true. They don't have the data and the receipts to say that that is true or not. That lawyer just sat there and said that they just make up stuff and tell you that and hope that you're dumb enough to just accept what they're saying without any facts and receipts. And like that lawyer was saying, if they came to court with that, they would lose.
Casualties, which we never saw because we fought this disease with great intelligence and great
Talking
acumen.
about measles
I will tell you this.
or COVID here.
There are lots of things to share today. Protests resonated through the COVID experience in my state. People protested at my home, around my family. But the leader of the protests ultimately, after I was worried that he would catch COVID, did exactly that. Ended up in grave, grave peril. His wife was in the intensive care unit. His name was Witkoff. He later disavowed the protests against the vaccinations after seeing individual after individual after individual be intubated and go into the ICU because he experienced it. And that's what we as physicians see too often.
That's because once you get into the hospital, you're going to die because the treatments that they're giving you in the hospital for COVID are the wrong treatments. Okay? People that are old, obese, and have issues like that were the main people getting sick with COVID. And then when they get to the hospital, they give them a treatment that doesn't work. They give them a drug like remdesivir that kills them. That is what we know today. And he knows it too.
A tragedy occurs. And my heart is with
These
everyone
people
who
are
had
the
any
devil.
kind of reaction to the vaccines that we're talking about or loses a loved one. Of course, we love our fellow mankind, but we cannot turn away from science. So these are some of the things.
Look what he just said. Yeah, some people die. Okay, if 2 people die from the vaccine, it should be off the market. Like all the other drugs. Why are people allowed to die with this one and not other ones? Because this one has the immunity. So they don't care how they make it. It doesn't have to be safe because no matter what crap they give you, they could kill the whole free world and nothing's going to happen. And that's exactly what they did.
Wanted to share with you today. Ultimately, we have to decide whether we're going to be committed to public health in our country. And right now, we are in great peril. It is absolutely my firm belief that vaccines have saved millions of lives over the last 50 years, 150 million by many people's.
He keeps talking about these vaccines. They are specifically talking about the experimental mRNA spike protein, but messenger RNA vaccine that they gave for COVID-19. Not all the other vaccines in the schedules, that one. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking something different.
Counts. It's decreased infant mortality by 40% globally. And we have to continue to commit ourselves in this way.
Is this man a joke here? You know how many kids they killed throughout the world, Bill Gates and them, with their vaccines? How many kids they paralyzed with their vaccines? Give me a break. These people are wicked, just pure wickedness.
Okay. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned that as we end up in a politicized discussion, that we will move away from science. We will not trust one another, experts.
We don't trust
We will
the
not
science.
trust one another, and we will end up in conflict. So what I would
We're
say is
already in
this.
conflict, sir.
Let's work together. Let's find a way to actually find the common ground to protect our children. Let's find a way to make sure our public health system.
How we do it is getting rid of people like this and take away the immunity off of these vaccine products. That's how we do it.
Remains intact, not taken apart by the current approach where HHS is jettisoning many of its people, many of the billions of dollars, perhaps many of the vaccinations. This is our opportunity to come together. And I'm sure we'll talk more about this as the hearing goes on, but I'll say one last time. Vaccines save lives. I've given vaccines. I've taken vaccines. I've treated people that didn't get vaccines, and it's broken my heart when they've passed away.
Thank you, Governor Green.
Y'all trust him? Y'all trust him? Okay, we're going to wrap this up right here. Oh, boy, these people, they drain me. They're annoying. So we're going to come back tomorrow and watch the rest of this. I might have to put this in 3 parts, but I had to come on here with this because a lot of people I just feel don't understand. Like I had a friend tell me that she didn't know that the pharmaceutical companies had immunity. If you die or get sick, oh, I'm going to sue them. No, you're not, because they have immunity. I didn't know that. How you going to take something like that and not do the research first? And then be mad at the people that don't want it. You blind faith follow this government and these crazy ass alphabet agencies and stuff, and they get mad at the people that don't trust them. But we have every reason not to trust them. So I'm going to go. This was a long one, but I don't care. We're going to go through this whole hearing because there's so many things that I want to just make sure that I get on video to send out. Okay, so we'll be back tomorrow sometime. I don't know when. Hopefully not as late as it was tonight. I am Shelly B. I love you. If you sat through this with me, I appreciate it. Please share these videos. It would mean everything to me to get these messages out to people so we can elevate our frequency. That's all I want to do, is see people elevate their frequency and just get on a higher level of consciousness, because we have to be aware of what is going on around us so that we can mind our health and take care of our families, take care of our mental health and all these things. I love you. Thank you so much for watching me. I put this up because that means I love you in sign language, and I do if you sat through this with me. And I really appreciate y'all. I'm going to go because I'm getting tired. This past my bedtime. You know, I'm like an old lady. I go to bed really early. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for the second part of this. I really think it's going to have to be in 3 parts, but I really want you guys to hear what these doctors have to say. When we come back tomorrow, you're going to hear, you know, them question these doctors. And of course, the liberal representatives that are in favor of the vaccines, I think they look even more stupid and even more disingenuous as we move forward. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I am Shelly B. Thank